Welcome to the Sales SOS podcast, where we answer your sales distress calls. I'm Liz Heiman, and each week I'm joined by your crew of seasoned sales experts who have navigated these waters and come out victorious. So if you're ready to turn your sales distress into sales success, you're in the right place. Let's dive into today's topic. Welcome to the Sales SOS podcast. I'm Liz Heiman, and I'm here with your Sales SOS podcast crew, Brynne Tillman, Chris Bowen, Mike Simmons, and Renee Bigelow. And today we're talking about sales skills. So whenever the sales landscape changes, the economy changes, things change, sales gets harder, right? And for some people, it gets easier for, depending upon what they're selling. But when it's not a gift market, as Renee calls it, our team sales skills become that much more important. So right now, we're in a very uncertain time. Things are very unpredictable, and people are thinking about a lot of different things. They're unsure about what they should be spending money on and when they should be spending it. So as salespeople, we need to overcome that. And we talk a lot about overcoming objections. I prefer handling objections. Objections are part of the sales process. Sometimes it's part of the sales process as the person who's buying says, this is not the right time or the right product for me. Sometimes an objection is, these are the things I'm worried about. So I have a process for handling objections, or overcoming objections, or however you want to talk about it. But I'd love to hear from you guys. Now, you get your first objection when you do a cold call, which is, I'm busy. Right? This isn't the right time. So let's start at the very top of the funnel. How do we handle objections?
I also think that piece of new information helps a lot, right? Because now it's not he said, or she said, right? It is, here is a new piece of information that changes perspective, right? So I have a lot of global clients. It's been a time of huge uncertainty, right, this year for a lot of reasons. And a lot of people decided to pull back, right? Oh, I'm going to hold off on a decision. Well, now there is a 90-day tariff window for many countries. It's a perfect example of saying, this was I'm just using something that's on top of everyone's mind today, right? This was your reason, high volatility for postponing something. It was your objection, right? You're gonna hold off on making a decision. Now we have a window to say, we can guarantee prices until this date. You need this new piece of information. This is the projected cost based on what we saw over the past few weeks of what it will be later. So here is an opportunity to put this new information in front of you for new consideration. It's different than how you formed your objection earlier, right? So I mean, that's just an easy one right now to use as an example. I wish they were all so easy, because that also has urgency to it and, works in our favor, but I'll let somebody else come up with one of the more hard ones.
Well, I'm going to come up with a strategy or structure versus actual what to say. My whole philosophy is earning the right to get the conversation. So I'm not cold calling. I'm not getting on a call with someone until I've added enough value that they can't wait to talk to me. That's not right for everyone. Everyone has their own way of prospecting. But for me, that makes the most sense. I rarely get hung up on. Never, but rarely. And most of my meetings are in Zoom because they're scheduled. So how do I get there, right? So there are silent objections that are happening all the way until I get to the first call. So I need to know what those are. So social listening, or listening period, is where we have to start. We have to really identify what are the real objections that our prospects are giving us. Because when I sit in a sales training that, someone's doing, and they'll go, oh, what are the objections? The price. Well, that's not the real objection. What is happening that, take all of the obviousness out and what's underlying. So we can't overcome it until we really know what it is. That's the first thing. The next thing we have to do is, I mean, I'm not going to go back to that, but the 5 points. Well, I will quickly is you've got to resonate, create curiosity, teach them something new that gets them thinking differently about their current situation and create a compelling moment. So your content needs to do that. Your messaging needs to do that. And I think that kind of feeds into what Renee's saying is we've got to get their attention with a sense of urgency. But if you know the biggest objection is status quo, then you need content about, all the reasons status quo is going to get you in trouble. This is my big thing right now is, I'm really out there teaching prompt writing to sales and marketing teams deeply. And they're like, oh, well, what we're doing works. Status quo is fine. So I'm not going to compete on price with status quo because the price of status quo is cheaper than paying me. Right? So what am I talking about? So I need to find out what matters to them. Losing the competitive edge, having your prospects start more trust-based conversations because they've got better content at scale. The lack of your ability to personalize fast enough. There are things, and what that outcome is that your prospect's going to get there first. And we know Corporate Visions did a study, 74% of buyers choose the rep that was first to add value and insight. 3/4 of the decisions are made based on having value added to them. So I know you're talking about objections, but that content overcomes objections. And we actually have content all the way through the sales cycle. We know that the next call, we're going to get these objections. So we're going to send them content that overcomes it in preparation for that call. Right. And so at every point, we have to know really what the objection is. And now we have to earn the right to never hear that objection because we've overcome it. And I'll tell you one more and then I'm done. But this is not exactly an objection, but it shows up like one. And this happened for years where I would get a verbal. Yeah. And then they'd say, Brynne, we'd like to talk to 2 or 3 customers before we sign. And I'd be like, oh, okay, well, that could take days or weeks or even longer sometimes. And it's putting my customers out just a little bit and all those things. And by the time I make the introductions and maybe they're responded to, even no matter how much my clients love me, they have their own life and their own business, that it cools down and the urgency to work with me is gone. So how do we overcome that objection early on? After my first call, I will say, Mike, so great to understand a little bit about what's going on in your organization. Thanks for kind of taking the time to listen to kind of some of the things that we might be able to help you with. Here's our next step. Before we meet, I'm going to ask you to just take a few minutes and look over the recommendations that I have on LinkedIn, because if we decide to move forward, there's a good chance you may want to talk to 1 or 2 of those. So can you commit to me to just kind of review those before our next call? Now they never say I want to talk to someone because they just looked at 12 people that they can click through and go, oh, they're just like me and they love her. So that's one way to overcome that objection, but it's not really an objection, but it's a block, right? Before it happens.
It is an objection. Those objections sound lots of different ways. And that's one objection is what they're saying is I'm still not 100% sure.
Even though I gave you a verbal.
Even though I gave you a verbal, I'm having some concerns about, are you really as good as you said you are? That's an objection. Right? And it's part of their buying process and it's okay. So how getting ahead of it matters. And it's one of the things, and Renee, you and I have talked about this a lot. How can the marketing team help salespeople know what objections they get all the time. How can the marketing team begin to put out content that supports the salespeople without having to say, here's an objection, send it to the, how do you build that so that support is already there?
So I will tell you, for quite some time, for as long as I've been in the business, that's been a real hard thing to get from sales often. Like you have to really do the work to get marketing into a meeting where the sales management schedules time, and then everybody tells you all their objections. You got to get them down. You got to make sure you understand the complexity. Over time, we've moved into things, and some people like this, some people don't, but we've moved into things like sales recording, like sales call recordings, right? Or even more customer interviews, where we've done deep customer interviews, not just like the glossy questions, right? Where we've said, what were you considering before you purchased us? We've asked the things before they purchased too, right? Like, what were your objections when you were not sure? Like, where we do that research with customers, or we have those sales calls that are recorded. So I'm going to give you a cheat sheet that bypasses a lot of what was a pain point in the past of really trying to understand those and get them into marketing. If you, as a sales leader, pull some of those that you think are very relevant, and if you can't do this, at least just allow your marketing team to have access, right? Like, marketers will know what to do. But if you want to pull the ones that you think are great and send those over to marketing, they now have your customers' words, not even your salesperson's interpretation of those words, which is like a game of telephone, right? Where something gets lost in translation all along the way. Then they can use that in AI. I mean, you can also just use it yourself, right? Like, without AI. But if you use several of them and you build them into a project in AI, now you can develop a lot of content with the help of AI that can just get into a big knowledge base. That's the big thing. You're using AI to help you with this large knowledge base of these exact way that they're saying things. So your marketing team can craft a message and then say to the AI, help me put this in the words. Have I addressed their objections? What am I missing? What about your marketing team can brainstorm with the AI like the customers in the room, essentially, and make sure that all of that's done. And that one thing could help you get a lot of sales enablement materials. And then you could say to your sales team, what is your process, right? Go back to your sales manager and say, what is your process? Are there follow-up calls? Are there emails? Are they doing LinkedIn? Whatever. And then make sure you have a playbook that matches to the format of the process. So you have that content that you're building it out of. You find out what the process is. You make sure you have materials that support the formats for that process. It may be sales scripts, right? Like, it may be they're going to do, and I don't mean that you use them word for word. I mean, it's something that a salesperson can look at before they make a call to kind of do some context switching, because they're doing a million things, right? And it helps them with that context switching to like refresh their brain. Like, this is some of the points I can make when I'm on a call, right? So it may be that, it may be emails, it may be hard letters, like thank you notes or whatever, things that will help them just go through those steps faster and easier, because we're all trying to do too many things at once. And that context switching all the time is heavy load. So that's what the sales enablement materials generally help with.
Mike, Chris, anything? They're very quiet.
Well, I was just gonna let Mike go. But I mean, I always look at objections as mostly, not always, mostly as buying signals, right? So you're just you have to help them be able to make the decision. If a question, either something ideally you would have found out during discovery or during that portion of your process, but you have to be able to understand where it's coming from. And then you have to get them comfortable with what the resolution of that is. I think once you can walk them down that path, it becomes a lot easier. Doesn't mean it's always done, because until there's ink on paper or DocuSign, it doesn't count. But that's how I tend to look at those things. I think you have to be able to meet them where they're at, not where you wish they were.
Mike, do you have anything to add?
Yeah. So I mean, this is going to be an oversimplification of objection handling and responding to objections, but just write these words down. Ask a question, then listen, hear what they have to share, then decide. Do I share information in response, or do I ask a follow-up question? If I ask a follow-up question, then listen, then decide, and then choose, go through it again. It's just a looping process, like really simple. Here's the problem. We overcomplicate that. Excuse me. I don't remember if we can curse or swear on this thing again, but we overcomplicate.
I don't know, but we always do, Mike.
Okay.
So
We overcomplicate the fuck out of this by going in and saying, here's my script. Here's my 10 ways to 10 questions to handle an objective or objection, or 10 whatever. You know what? Be a human being. Be curious. Ask your customer questions. We talked about credibility earlier. You gain more credibility in the questions you ask than the crap you share. So ask, listen, decide, then either share or ask, and just go through that process. If you do that, and you can steal it, run with it, make it your own, do whatever you want to do with it. Just do that.
actually,
You'll get
Mike,
better.
what I want to do, I want to give you actually a process that I've been calling ask lately. It's AASC. Ask. And of course, the very first thing that is not on this is you have to listen. So no yabba dabba doing, no yabutting our clients when they give us an objection. Oh, you're too expensive. Yeah, but we're the cheapest ones out there. Like no yabba dabba do, first of all. But so the first is after we've listened and heard them and taken a breath, we then acknowledge them. Oh, wow. I can see why that would be a concern. Oh, yeah, no, I see that you saw that price was lower for the other company, or, oh, I would really be worried about that too. Oh, that much. Like, it's really easy to acknowledge other people. All you have to do, and don't just repeat their words back to them because nobody wants that, but acknowledge that they have expressed a concern, a worry, a fear, and it is real to them. Acknowledge them. You will get so much further if you just acknowledge them. It's a huge stumbling block. Second is ask. Okay, they've told you something, you've acknowledged it. Now you're going to ask a couple more questions to really understand what the issue is. Oh, you said price is the issue. Tell me more about it. Do you have a specific budget that you have to meet? Are you wanting to make sure that you're paying the lowest price? Like, tell me more about that. Okay, so now that we understand it, we can go to solve. Because we can't solve until we've done those first steps, because they don't care about your solution if you haven't acknowledged them, and your solution is worthless if you don't really understand it. So we go acknowledge, ask, solve, and then confirm. Okay, let me just make sure. If we can do this, you will be ready to buy from us.
Great.
And then move on. So that's my ask. And I have to give some credit to my sister, Alice, because she and I came up with this together. So I didn't come up with that by myself, but I think it's really powerful. Okay.
The thing I would add in there, and this is really powerful. Put it up on the whiteboard. You've got it listed here. You go through those things. Share an alternate perspective just a little bit before. Don't ask 3 questions. Ask 1 question and listen for the response.
And listen.
Yep. Just 1 question, like simple. And when we add too much complexity, we don't know what they're responding to. And we're giving them an out, and we're starting to lead the person on the other end. And unfortunately, especially in situations where people just want to get off the phone, they may tell you exactly what you want to hear. And where are you? Like,
So if you guys want, I have a what do you call it? Infographic that has that. Ask. If you guys want it, just send me a note on LinkedIn and say, hey, Liz, will you send that to me? I'd be happy to send it. Okay. So
Hey, Liz, will you send that to me?
Sure will.
can I say, if you steal the
Renee,
one that I
you're-
said up there before, just say that you stole it.
State that I stole what?
No, not you stole it. You didn't steal anything. I just said, you have yours. The one that I asked where I was like, hey, ask, listen, decide, then either ask or share. Like, if you steal that, let us know how it works too. Like we're all learning together. Thank you.
Well, I will tell you, when someone gives the right credit, I have a different view of them. Right? And a lot of people are like, well, I want to take credit for it because it sounds so smart. But when I hear or I read a book and I see that someone gives credit, I have so much respect for that person. Like there are 3 or 4 things that I give credit to all the time. Like I give a statistics, I'm always saying where I got it. If you use something and you tell people where you got it, you come across as smarter than if you acted as if it were your own, because it means that you're out there learning from other people all the time. So give the credit. That's all. Sorry.
You had one last thing.
Yeah, I just wanted to share, since we're talking about questions, I really just wanted to share, there are a couple, I probably deal with more salespeople than the rest of you, like calling on me for things. And I cannot stand one in particular and how it starts. So tell me about your business, because they're trying to be.
What keeps you up at night, Renee?
Yeah, like anything that starts off with like you're starting a conversation and asking me to like do the work of this sales call, right? Like it's just such a bad experience. And the second one, which is taking something close to your ask, Liz, but not doing it as elegantly. The 5 whys, which is like the Toyota thing, right? Like where you get to the root cause of something. It's one thing for me to do that with my team because we're trying to solve a problem internally. And it's another for a salesperson to drill me for, and if that doesn't happen, you know, what causes that? And what, like it's very,
So,
right? So
I'm
you're
going to
a much
stop you, Renee. I'm going to stop you because that's where we're going next. So let's pick up from there as we start and talk about in our next episode. We're going to talk about some of the things not to do when you're asking questions and some of the things to do. Mike, you had one more thing to say?
Just really, really quick one. This is one of those things where I think people get too hung up on the whole, like, tell me a little bit about your business, or what are you struggling with, or what keeps you up at night, or whatever. When you ask that question, ask it with the intention to learn and make sure that you've done your homework.
Mike, let's go here. Because we're going to do our next episode on questions. So I'm going to stop you both.
Okay.
We're going to end this episode, but Chris had something to say about objections before we end. And then I'm making you to start the next segment talking about this stuff because this is really powerful. Chris, you had something to say about objections before we go?
No, I was fine with us switching to the next episode. So
all right.
Maybe that's where the was at.
Renee and Mike are chopping at the bit. So we're going to wrap up this episode. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Sales SOS podcast. And we will see you in the next episode.
And that's a wrap for this episode of the Sales SOS podcast. A huge thank you to our experts for throwing us a lifeline with their insights. We hope that episode has equipped you to navigate sales leadership with confidence. Never miss an episode. Subscribe to your Sales SOS podcast on your favorite platform. If you have questions, comments, or topics you'd like us to explore, join us live on LinkedIn every second Friday, or share your questions on LinkedIn or YouTube. Until next time, keep sailing toward your sales goals.